Hit the recordings. So, good evening, fellow TSNs. It's a privilege to be here amongst you all, a group of seasoned professionals and experts, my friends in the education industry. So, as you all know, that today we gather to delve into a subject that is pivotal in our collective mission. So, the topic is financial planning for studying in higher education institutions. In our roles as educators, counselors, and mentors, we understand that guiding students and parents through the financial aspect of higher education is as critical as the academic journey itself. So, this session is dedicated to equipping us with the knowledge and tools needed to navigate the complex terrain. So, our agenda today will cover the nuances of need based versus merit based scholarships, a distinction crucial for advising our students effectively. We will also explore strategies to bolster their chances of securing these scholarships, turning potential into opportunity. Additionally, financial preparedness is essential for visa applications, so an area often overlooked but critical for studying abroad. We will discuss how to ensure that our students are financially ready for this vital step in their education journey. So today we have Punya Vij from EduCoach Services and Rupali Revlalikar Dehare of ERA Consulting, who will lend their expertise to our discussions. Punya is the founder, CEO, and the principal counselor at EduCo Services, which is a holistic education and career advisory boutique. Rupali, on the other hand, is the managing director and CEO of Ara Consulting. She has worked as a professional architect and a lecturer at an architecture college for many years. So let's begin this journey of financial empowerment. Over to you, Punya. The house is yours.
Sure. Thank you so much, Avinav, for kickstarting the session with such a good, crisp introduction of both Rupali and myself and outlining the agenda. Both Rupali and I are very, very delighted to be doing this session for the TOC community. I'm going to introduce myself very, very quickly, although you've done the introductions so well, but I'm still going to tell the audience a little bit about what EduCoach does and why we chose this particular topic. And I'll request Rupali to do the same, and then we'll straight away jump into the session. So as Avinav mentioned, all of you, I'm Punya from EduCoach. EduCoach is an independent college counseling firm headquartered in Delhi. We started back in 2012. So we're almost going to be completing 12 years now. And I, over the course of 12 years, have come across several families where students have got great college offers and sometimes still have not managed to go overseas for their college education. And when we look at various reasons of why they finally did not land up going, we realize that the financial planning has sort of gone a little haywire. And very, very consciously, we inbuilt it into our services where we start informing parents now at a very, very advanced stage as to how they need to manage their finances, even if they can afford great education, what accounts they need to keep their money in, what are the good scholarships that they can apply to, how they can apply for merit-based aid. If they only have an X budget in their mind, then how can they work around that budget but not compromise on the quality of the institutions? Once everything is sorted, they've paid the tuition fee, they've got their admission, how can they save a little bit more on their on their entire cost of attendance? What is it that they can do once they're once the student is there on campus? How can the student earn a little bit more money and manage to be able to afford some frill expenses which they don't need to depend on their parents for? So we've actually inbuilt it into our practice where we do a few sessions through the year of grade 11 and 12, specifically on financial planning. And that's what I'm here for today, to share some nuggets of wisdom that I have learned and acquired over the course of time. And I'm grateful to my co-presenter Rupali for agreeing to join to do the session with me today. Over to you, Rupali. Rupali, I'm going to request you to unmute yourself.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. So, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet all of you out here. And as a not just as a counselor, but as a parent, I have gone through certain things, and that is something I'm going to share, particularly the expenses part. The CSS part, of course, I have not been a part of because we never applied for financial aid, but we help a lot of our students who are very talented, and they really want to harness this opportunity to go to good colleges across the globe. So we help them. So primarily, I'm going to talk about the CSS profile, which is for US, and what it entails. What are the kind of requirements are there? What are the kind of documents the students need to be prepared with? And these are all need-based. This is all need-based financial aid, right? So this is something I'll talk about. And yeah, let's take it forward, Punya.
Great. Thank you, guys. We're going to straight away now jump into addressing the elephant in the room. And I'm going to seek permission from Abhinav to share my screen and take you through an informative presentation that both Rupali and I put together. And feel free to put your questions on the chat box or raise your hands, and we'll try and address the questions either through the session, or we'll keep a few minutes at the end, of course, to address all the questions. We'll try and do our best in terms of managing the time in a way where we can address almost all your questions that come in, because I think that's the real, I think that's a real benefit of having a fruitful session where at least all the queries that emerge through the session or even otherwise can be addressed. Right. So I'm going to share my screen. Abhinav, I'll request you to prompt if my screen is
Yes,
visible.
all good.
Okay.
All good, Punya. Go ahead. Just a minute. Yes, perfect. Go ahead.
Okay. So the first agenda that I'm going to be talking about is planning in advance. What is the importance of planning in advance for college? So the first point on my screen is questionnaires. So what we have prepared in our organization is a questionnaire. Whenever a student signs up with us in grade 11 or post grade 11, then we give out a questionnaire which is called as the financial awareness questionnaire, where we try and understand who is going to be the sponsor. Are you going to be sponsored by your parents, or are you going to be sponsored by the organization that your parents is running? And so we collect all that data based on the geographical preferences and based on who's going to be sponsoring the education. And we throw in some numbers on that questionnaire that for the US, this is the average cost of attendance that we are looking at. For this country, this is the cost of attendance that we're looking at. And then we go through the responses of all the students and parents just to see if there are any red flags or not. So if there are any red flags, we can probably address them in, say, beginning of grade 11. Just to give you an example, that if you are wanting to study in the UK, you cannot use any other savings or any source of funds except the money that you have in your savings account, or fixed deposits, which also need to be liquefiable deposits. You need a document, a certificate from the bank which certifies that the fixed deposit of the chief sponsor is going to be the fixed deposit can be liquefied and it belongs to the parent. Again, a lot of cases we've seen in our history of working with students where a grandparent is sponsoring the cost of education. But UK came up with a rule a few years back that neither the spouse can sponsor nor the grandparents can sponsor. It's only the parents or the student himself or herself if you're 18 and above. So getting all that information in the beginning of 11th gives out sufficient time to the family to be able to juggle with their funds from one account to the other. If they have all the money in the mutual funds, they can probably start liquidating that at a certain point, put them into fixed deposits. Or if they have a wrong notion of what the cost of attendance is for a certain country, you can at least warm them up to other geographies or other colleges which may fit around their budget. Or if they do not want to make their choices, then help them understand if they may want to depend on external factors like some scholarships or loans, etc. So having a questionnaire definitely helps. I would suggest to all independent counselors and school counselors to have some discussion on finances. And if sometimes you feel awkward of asking those questions, what is your bank balance or how much you can afford, having a questionnaire in place definitely helps to avoid all those awkward questions that you may not feel comfortable asking. Second, one-to-one meetings, which is the successor to the first step. Once you've had a questionnaire, you've assessed their responses, you may want to do a meeting to educate them about the whole finances. Third, which we started a year back only, and we've seen great success in it, is having a financial calendar. So how we have a calendar in my organization, EduCoach, on timelines, like which application goes out when, what deadline, when do we work on the brag sheets, when do we start working on the essays. We also have a financial calendar which my visa team and my finance team in EduCoach looks at, and they keep sending out. They've created all those emails and scheduled all those emails on Gmail, which keep going out at designated times, where they keep the reason for these emails is to keep reminding parents of, because we've had parents come flip around and say, no, you did not tell us this account works or not, or this email went into my spam, etc. So we have that calendar where even if it's the same information, we keep reminding them over and over again, because we don't want parents to be in a position where everything is done and then in the end they are not able to go because of a certain accounting issue where the money needed to be in account X, but it could have been transferred into Y and the student could have gotten. So it may be a good practice. So in July, what should you be doing? In August, what should you be doing? Maybe say in the month of September, educate them a little bit about visas. So I'm going to take the liberty of touching a little bit about visas because it's linked with the whole financial situation. Now, US, if a student is applying for a US student visa, if you already have a tourist visa, you don't need 2 appointments at the embassy. If you don't have a tourist visa, then you may have to go twice to the embassy, one for your biometrics and then one for an interview. So you may want to put within the financial calendar this year. We had also added this point that like a reminder, do you have a US tourist visa? If not, apply if US is your first choice, because you might be able to get an expedited appointment for your student visa as a result of that. So having a calendar definitely helps. And last point, of course, reminders. Once you have calendars, just schedule as many emails as you want to, even if parents have read that information. Again, they're aware of it. It doesn't hurt to send that email again, just so that you feel more assured that as a counselor, you've done your job by educating the parent to the best of your ability. So this is very, very important, in my opinion, about planning in advance. Now, once you have planned in advance and you feel that a student may not be able to afford the entire cost of attendance, or can afford but could strongly benefit from a scholarship by just, say, feeling highly motivated about going to a particular college, the student's productivity probably doubles or triples once the student gets a scholarship, even if he or she can afford, by doing much better, getting a much better GPA, realizing your own self-worth, feeling that sense of accomplishment. So scholarships are always welcome. I'm yet to come across a student or a parent who says we don't need scholarships, right? Everybody, if you're getting, if tomorrow you go to a mall and you get something which is $5,000 and they say we are running an offer and we are giving it to you for $3,000, I'm yet to come across somebody who will be like, no, please, I will pay $5,000 and I don't want that $2,000 discount. So what are those scholarships? How do you get these scholarships? What are the categories of scholarships? I'm going to take you through this information on this slide. So the first kind of scholarships is school nominated scholarships. So certain scholarships you cannot apply, a student cannot apply on his or her own level. They are capped by the number of scholarships that exist per school. Sometimes there can be only one scholarship per high school that a student can apply to, sometimes a few more. And they're school nominated because they might be very prestigious scholarships, and sometimes a student may apply and may not land up going there and using that scholarship, and that scholarship could have been given to somebody else for whom that college could have been like a real super dream to go. So that's why the university safeguard the interests of the students and the school by having a school nomination for the scholarships. So definitely get in touch with your school counselor if you want to apply for school nominated scholarships. I've mentioned some. University of British Columbia has the ILOT scholarship, the International Leaders of Tomorrow Award. University of Toronto has a Pearson scholarship. And then there are a few other scholarships like the one at Indiana University, at Rochester University, and so on. In the interest of time, space, effort, and and a lot of other factors, obviously a lot of information that you will see today on the slides of what I'm talking about will be limited, but this is just a sample representative of what we are trying to convey. It's, if I'm mentioned only 3 scholarships, does not mean that there are no more school nominated scholarships. Of course, there are a lot more. And based on my limited understanding, if any of you need more information than what you currently see or what Rupali and I share with you, I'm happy to answer questions on direct message, email, etc. Based on whatever best I can share beyond this, right? So school nominated scholarship is done. Going to the second point, which is other kinds of scholarships. So these scholarships also you need to apply for. They are not automatic, but you don't need an approval from school or you don't need a nomination from school. You can just go ahead and apply on your own. So that's the second kind of scholarship. So say there's IE Spain has a scholarship that you can apply to. St. Andrews has a scholarship that you can apply to. Fordham University has a scholarship that you can apply to. Then there are automatic consideration scholarships. So these scholarships nobody applies to. You automatically get considered once you put in your application. So for example, there's Bocconi University, which considers you for a scholarship based on how your SAT scores have been. They will automatically consider you on a scholarship or your GPA. There is Loughborough in the UK, where say if you're doing the CBSE or the ICSE curriculum and you have an 85% and above or 90% and above, they will just say that we will give you a 25% award straight away. So some of these scholarships are automatic consideration where they might come along with your offer letter or they might come in a few days after your offer letter, but you don't make an external application to those. The fourth kinds of scholarships are scholarships which are not directly offered by the college or the university. They're offered by third parties. So for example, there's Next Genius in which is run by Devesh and Neeraj in India. They have a band of universities that are under their umbrella. So you can select which are those 2 or 3 universities that you may want to apply to. You put in an application based on your profile, you get your top university choice over there. And then if you land up getting admission into that university, you might get either a 25%, 10%, 50%, or 100% tuition award. So for this also you have to apply, but you don't apply for the scholarship to the college, you apply to the third party. So these are the main kinds of scholarships which you may want to start the planning again in class 11th, once you have a better understanding of what kinds of colleges the student is maybe looking at or what is the affordability level of the student. So scholarships are merit based, what I discussed up until now. What my fellow co-presenter Rupali is now going to be talking about is need-based financial aid, which is independent of merit. So over to you, Rupali, to enlighten the audience in this. Rupali, you'll have to unmute yourself again.
So, hi. So, yes, as all of us know, most of the universities in the US are need aware. Only a few, 5 to 7 of them are need blind, as all of us know, the Harvard, Princeton, Yale, etc. The ones which are need aware and actually give a need-based aid require something called CSS. Now, CSS is required only by private universities because public universities do not give any financial aid to international students. So also my experience has been, even for you, the US citizens who are studying internationally, I have noticed that they of course they have to have their FAFSA in place, and in the international citizens are supposed to do the CSS. Now CSS will be applicable, like I mentioned, only to the private universities in the US. This CSS profile is basically linked to your College Board account, which you need to open. Also, it requires great details about your not just income, the entire assets, all kinds of assets which you may have, your fixed assets, liquid assets, um, incomes of both the families. Also, the interesting part is exactly like the way they look at the admissions, which is holistic. This is also a holistic kind of a assessment of your entire financial situation. So they are going to ask about, uh, of course, your incomes, then your taxes, then your assets, then also whether you have anybody who are dependent on you. And that will also, they will ask about some of the details of your monthly expenses. It is a little tedious form. It is a tedious kind of a job, but it really helps students get these. So the monthly expenses are going to be like, how much do you spend on your rent? How much do you spend on your food? How much do you spend on your clothes? How much do you spend on your domestic help? Everything needs to be put in that application. Ideally, we should, whoever is based in India needs to fill this in INR. There are some students, for example, we have who are Indians but based in, say, other countries. They will use their local currency to complete this information. So this information is going to be, so this form also asks about any extra responsibilities this family has. So if you have, say, if the student has 3 siblings, then that is also a consideration that entire assessment will have. If you have parents or if you have grandparents who are dependent on you, all those things will be kind of assessed, and based on that your aid will be calculated. Sometimes I have also seen that they will come back to you with questions once you actually add a particular college. So you basically make a CSS account, you add a college, submit your CSS profile, and if the aid is to be calculated, and if they have some questions, the college will reach out to you directly, rather the parents directly, and understand the situation. And I have had a few parents having these challenges, because sometimes parents are not able to fill the information accurately, so there some might be a mismatch. In the same process, not all, but some colleges will require something like iDoc. So iDoc is a portal where you need to upload your ITR of last 2 years. So for both the parents. So again, that also gives them the holistic picture. So that is where the actual documents will go. CSS is where the information will be put, and iDoc will be where your documents will be uploaded. Some colleges have their own forms. So not, I mean, some colleges, particularly the private colleges, do not use CSS. They will use their own form, which is very similar to CSS, but they're not a part of this program. So CSS, with every CSS you submit, you need to make a payment of $16 or something. To each college you make that payment. I mean, for each submission you make that payment. Funnily, I mean, I find that really weird, because you are actually asking for aid, and you are asking every student to pay $16 per per application for CSS, which is little funny, but that's the way it is. So that's the way the whole process will be conducted. As you know, need aware colleges are going to look at CSS or whatever financial aid forms are there. And then of course there are need-based scholarships, which Punya has already talked about. Yeah. Over to you, Punya.
Yes, so thank you, Rupali. So Rupali mostly spoke about from a US context where the CSS profile is there if you are an international student, otherwise FAFSA if you are an American citizen. But there are need-based scholarships in other parts of the world also. And in most cases, there's no central application, but you make an application to every college. So for example, Ashoka University is there, which does offer need-based scholarship or need-based aid up to 100%. There's IE University in Madrid again, which whereas in my previous slide said that it offers merit-based scholarships, but it also offers need-based scholarships also. So like this, you may want to segregate scholarships on the basis of need and merit, and for every student decide which category he or she will fit into.
In fact, Flame also gives scholarships.
Yes, most of the colleges would, yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, my next point is going to be this whole buzzword ROI, what it really means. You will often have parents come to you and be like, what is the ROI of this college? Can you please rank the colleges in the order of best ROI? So what is this ROI? How do you tackle questions about ROI? What's the right time to start bringing ROI into the whole picture with your parents? So ROI is an acronym for return on investment, which is basically a very simple mathematical formula which comes from your input and output. Your input is the cost that you're putting in. The output is, which is technically the return, which is how much you land up earning out of it. What are your cash flow prospects out of the cost that you're putting into the education? And the percentage tells you like 100% ROI will sort of tell you that your input and output cost are going to completely match. Or if you want to express it in a non-percentage way and relatively compare two colleges, a higher ROI college would mean that a college for the same cost is giving you a better placement prospect or an earning prospect, or for the same placement prospects across two colleges, a higher ROI college will be having a lower cost of attendance as compared to the other. So this is what in technical terms ROI means. Now, personally, when students and parents bring ROI, I take this as a personal responsibility / challenge to help them understand that return further can be of two types. One is your tangible monetary return, and second is your intangible, inconspicuous benefits that you'll end up getting from education at a particular college. And I have seen that parents have started understanding this more now and have started valuing it. Of course, you will have some parents, for whom it's pure, translation of paisa dala, itna paisa mila. But as counselors, we can take this responsibility of helping them understand what is this whole intangible return on investment that you can get in. So the human capital that you build, what is your own worth as a person, how charming as a personality that you become as a result of that education, what's the knowledge base that you're building, what are the skills that you're building, which may not translate immediately into those dollars that you might be expecting from your first job, but over a period of time all of that will accrue to a total net self-worth, which is going to be a combination of your job as well as all the experiences, knowledge, education, network that you've built. Maybe a few years down the line, you are doing business or you're doing a deal with somebody that you met at college. You're rubbing shoulders with who's and who's of different parts of the world, even if you don't get the best job out there. So please help your parents understand what this intangible return is. And you may want to factor that also into account when you're doing financial planning. You may want to keep those one or two colleges which may not give spectacular jobs, but still may attract some of the best intellectual capital from different parts of the world, which will translate into financial capital at some point for the student in the future. So I do stress on the whole tangible versus intangible ROI, which is what I wanted to explain through this slide. Okay, now I want to talk about the hidden gem colleges. So I have made a curated list of colleges. Again, There is no vested interest in putting these colleges out here. I'm not an agent for these colleges. I'm not biased towards any of these colleges. Why you see these colleges here is because I've tried to pick a diverse set of colleges, some for business, some for engineering, some from US, some from outside of the US. But there are many, many, many more colleges like these. I'm only going to be talking about a few. Now, I'm calling these as hidden gem colleges is because for a certain program or a certain few programs, they might be having stellar rankings. They might be first in the world or in top 10 or top 5 in the world. And at the same time, be having a relatively lower cost of attendance, or even if the absolute cost pre-scholarship is high, they might be offering a lot of scholarships, merit scholarships, which can bring down the cost drastically for you. And because you'll end up graduating from that college in a certain course for which it is ranked first in the world or in top 5 or top 10 in the world, your tangible return also may be very, very high. And that's why I'm calling these as hidden gem colleges. First is Erasmus University in Rotterdam in Netherlands, one of the top business schools, very, very low cost of attendance compared to a lot of other business schools that you see in different parts of Europe. Europe overall is cheaper than UK and a few other countries, but because Rotterdam is considered very prestigious, the cost across most European colleges or most Dutch colleges might be similar, but you're likely to get a higher tangible return and hence a hidden gem, right? Second is Northeastern University, which is in London. It's a newer campus that the university started 2 years back. Gives you the option of graduating from the Boston campus, but say if you are spending $72,000 US dollars on the tuition cost for the 4 years in Boston, you're only spending 25,000 pounds, which is almost 1/3 or 40% of what you're spending for Boston for the first 3 years, with the option of spending the 4th year in Boston after you complete 3 years in London and getting the same degree that Northeastern Boston would give you. But you get to spend 3 years in London, 1 year in Boston, and your cost of education comes down drastically. Third, University of Amsterdam. As per QS rankings for media studies, University of Amsterdam is ranked first in the world. I urge all of you guys to go and check QS media rankings. It's first in the world, higher than all the Ivy Leagues. And the cost of attendance is as low as 20 to 25,000 euros a year, which is again 1/4 of what American education would cost you. The Karl Benz School of Engineering in Germany, very, very famous for engineering, very low cost of attendance. Bocconi University in Milan, very strong program for economics and AI, economics and finance. Again, as per QS, it's in top 15. The cost of attendance is very low. The tuition cost is just about 10,000 euros for a year. And on top of that, if your GPA is very high or SAT score or ACT score is very high, you can get up to 100% scholarship, even on that 10,000 euros, right? There's Hotel School in Hague in the Netherlands, which is for hospitality, again, way cheaper than most other hospitality schools in different parts of the world, in Switzerland, Cornell, way cheaper, good return on investment. Les Roches in Marbella, again, Les Roches, some of the colleges now have multiple campuses. If you want to look at a cheaper campus, like Les Roches has a campus in Switzerland and in Spain, but Switzerland, the cost of attendance is very high if you want to keep the cost low, but you want to still graduate from one of the top hospitality schools, you have an option of doing that in Marbella, where the cost of living and education combined is almost 30 to 40% cheaper than what it would be in Switzerland. Hartpury, a very lesser known college. I also learned just a few years ago about it. Even though I've been in the field for so long, I had not heard about it until a student brought it to my attention. And when I started checking for certain programs, it was ranked first in the world. Now, Hartpury runs a very unique program related to equine studies, equestrian studies, equine studies. You want to get into the medicine, paramedicine, or biomedical field related to animals, veterinary sciences, agriculture, organic farming, equine and business. It's ranked for all of these courses that I mentioned. It's ranked first in the world. It's first in the world. So, and the cost of attendance is very, very low. The tuition is less, it's just about 15,000 pounds a year. Then the public universities in Singapore, NUS, NTU, SMU, they are not per se cheap at the face value, but all international students get an option of signing a bond where you agree to serve 3 years or 4 years in a Singapore-based firm in anywhere in the world, and you'll end up getting a straight 50% tuition grant. So hence, it becomes more ROI effective tangibly. Right. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about additional expenses and savings. Now, assuming that you have your financial papers, financial planning in place, you've selected the colleges, you've got a scholarship, you've committed to a college, how can you further get a greater return on your buck from the entire college expense that you're going to be incurring? So first is, now all of these services you may not want to provide yourself, but each counselor, school counselor or independent counselor, if they feel they need to, may want to have their own one or two contacts in their own database that they may want to refer their students to. Of course, it relieves parents of a lot of stress, because unless, instead of they scouting for all these people, you might want to have your own personal little, your little black book on, my top 2 forex contacts, my top 2 travel agents contacts, top 2 accommodation scouting firms. And over the course of the year, when you're not in the application stage or confirming to the application, you may want to further hone your relationship with all of these people, so that you can get better service for your students. Even if you're getting if you're getting the same forex rate, but you're getting a better service, the turnaround time is faster because of your relationship with that service provider, I still think it's better ROI, because time is money, right? Quality is money at the end of the day too. So now forex, it looks like, a bank is charging 85.2 for a dollar and another bank is charging 85.18. You might feel it's hardly of a difference, and how does it matter? It's just 2 paise. But you have to look at the entire, especially at undergrad, you have to look at it from the point of view of a 4-year project, where every month or every semester or every quarter the tuition fees is going. So it actually in the end lands up being a big chunk of money, even if you're saving a few paise. So forex is one place that you may want to look into. You as a counselor may want to look into it, or you may want to outsource it to somebody, but you may want to reiterate it to your parent that you can save some money on this account. Second, travel expenses. A lot of parents wait till July, August to decide where, they're confused between, okay, do I want to go to Canada or I want to go to the UK? We'll decide in July, and then we'll start our visa and to go in September. And when they actually make that decision, the flight prices are 3 times or 4 times of what originally they are. What I encourage my parents and students is, book your flight at your top 2 places or top 2 countries according to when the calendar starts. Book 2, in fact, refundable tickets. The cost of cancellation will not be more than 8,000 or 10,000 rupees, but you might land up saving in net, even after cancellation, you might land up saving close to 50,000-60,000 rupees, up to that much on economy fare, if you plan the travel in advance. Also, one point here, you may want to look at a return ticket and not a one-way ticket, because it will always fall cheaper, because once you've committed to a university, the entire calendar is available, right? You don't need to think, when will I come back, etc. All that is readily available. Third, accommodation. You may want to check on campus versus off campus, educate your parents. In most cases, on campus sometimes falls 5% more expensive than off campus, but I still encourage it to parents and students, because when the student is going for the first time, he or she may feel more at home being on campus. So you might want to budget that slight extra cost compared to what you see on Google, because the on-campus accommodation will be slightly more expensive. But you can inform the parent that this cost might come down, because most likely from second year onwards, students will find their own tribe and move with their friends into an apartment, and hence the cost factor will come down, right? And the last point is the whole timing consideration that you may want to plan. A lot of colleges give you a 5% rebate or a 10% rebate on tuition fee if you'll end up paying that full fee in advance for that 1 year, as opposed to paying semester wise. So depending upon the college that you choose, you may want to avail yourself of that option, and hence land up saving more money. So these are some saving avenues for all families. Once the decision on the college has been taken. I mean, money saved is money earned at the end of the day, and hence I do in my deck when I'm as per the financial calendar we follow, we do share a slide on all these points that I've mentioned for the benefit of my parents and students. Okay, I'm going to request Rupali to talk a little bit about this
Sure.
point.
Sure. So, in fact, managing the fee part, which you talked in the last point, is a very important one, and everybody has a different way of looking at things. And interestingly, at least in the US, colleges offer a plan where you can potentially pay it in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 installments. There is no discount to pay a lot of, I mean, at least from whatever I have seen, there is no really discount, but they will offer these plans. They may charge, say, $50, and there's something called a tuition payment plan or something like that. So you can potentially plan your payments through the entire year. So almost in 10 installments. I mean, I personally, this is a personal opinion, of course, feel that it is a good thing because we are invested in stock. So I don't want to remove all my money, and that is the best investment in terms of paying college fees, because you can take them out in parts. If you have, say, more fixed assets like uh, uh, um, uh, real estate, right? Yeah, real estate. Then you can't sell a bedroom. You have to sell a whole 5 crore property or a 3 crore property. But here you can actually pay in parts. You can actually liquidate in parts and keep on earning on the rest of the money. So the best way to, probably that has worked for us as parents, has been invest in stocks early. You could also, if somebody joins early to you with you, you can potentially, that's what we do, we recommend them that you start, earmark your funds and start investing even slowly. If they start investing, the returns on investment is a lot more, and there is less headache. It's just at the click of a button. Also, most colleges, at least for US, I'm specifically talking about US, where we are actually applying for I-20. Stocks are liquid. So they also, for I-20 or even for your visas, those can be submitted as a part of your asset, which is a liquid asset. So savings, FD, and your mutual funds. So you need not withdraw everything, but if you actually show them the entire statement, they are absolutely okay with it, because they know that it is a liquid thing. So today I can click a button and tomorrow I will have, or maybe in a couple of days, I will have funds in the bank. So that also is very helpful. So we always encourage families to look at this aspect, which really helps and which has helped us as parents to manage our costs. Other things are again, I'm very specific to US as a parent. There are a lot of part-time jobs available on campus. You can work for 20 hours a week, and there's a lot of interesting things happening, including research. You can become a resident advisor. So for a resident advisor, the entire food, housing, and sometimes even a stipend. So for example, my son has always been on campus. He's in a final year, but he's always been on campus. First year, of course, was to be in campus. Then he became an RA for all these years. So his food, his stay, his everything is taken care by college. And of course, he has a duty. So he works 20 hours a day. Also, he is a TA. So these are the kind of teaching assistant. So these are the kind of jobs students can look up. And these are the opportunities which will help them reduce their cost quite a bit. And the interesting part about US is that there are a lot of jobs available on the campus, and we always recommend that they should not take up anything outside of campus because of the visa issues and everything. It's always safer and better to take jobs absolutely on campus. So so they can, and a lot of student facilities are available on campus. Everything is available on campus, and they should take maximum advantage of this. They have their portals to for them to apply to the university jobs, and they have their coaches who tell them what to do. And I think that's really manageable, and it's a very smooth process that way, at least in the US.
Great. I would just like to add to one or two points to what Rupali's mentioned, particularly on how once you're in college, what are the other costs that you need to keep in mind, and how can you manage them better? One where Rupali mentioned that students can look at part-time jobs in the US, thanks to the post-COVID world where you're not restricted just to your geography. Today, you can do jobs sitting in the US. You can work for anybody anywhere in India or elsewhere. And there are a lot of students of mine who are doing part-time jobs in the US, and they're also doing freelance gigs, whether it's editing of essays or, working as on content creation for people, and they're able to manage some of their pocket expenses through that as well. You may want to suggest that as an option. Second, because Rupali shared a lot of points from the US context, just adding one more point there. A lot of colleges, the tuition fee that you pay is per credit. So sometimes very high achieving students become very obsessed with taking double major with my two minors and whatnot. But what they don't realize is, of course, they are augmenting the quality of their undergrad degree, but at the same time, they'll end up burning a hole in their parents' pocket. And sometimes the parents may not be prepared for that kind of an expense, because the moment you keep adding more credits, you also keep paying more tuition fee. And the parent can flip and turn around and to the counselor and say, you know what, you told me that X is the fee of the college, but I'm actually paying 2X fee. So you may want to educate the parents also about how certain colleges charge you per credit. And if typically it's 30 credits a year multiplied by 4, which is 120 credits over the course of 4 years. And some colleges will allow you up to 36 credits a year at the same tuition fee. But of course, if you land up going beyond this, some colleges may charge you extra fee. Not all parents and students will mind, because the double degree also has a lot of weight, which is also going to possibly improve your return on investment from the output point of view, but the input also is going up because you'll end up paying more, for credits. So these are the 2 points that I wanted to share over and above. And third, yes, that you should tell your parents to also budget the two trips that students will take as customary trips back and forth to India. So your travel expenses for that. And if, for example, if there's a Thanksgiving break or a spring break or a Halloween break, etc., somebody in the US, they may want to fly to Mexico for a spring break. The Thanksgiving, if they're in Switzerland, they may want to go to some other, they may want to go to Copenhagen to celebrate that particular moment. So obviously, you need to tell parents. What a point I'm trying to make here is there could be a few frill expenses also. You, of course, will educate the parents that the bare minimum expenses, which are customary and obligatorily need to be made by parents, but you need to tell them that there could be a few other expenses that could pop up, and they may want to budget an X miscellaneous amount within that. And one last point that I want to share, which is more my learning from what Rupali just shared right now. I think so. I just had a daughter a month back, and looking and hearing what Rupali shared, I think the first thing I'm going to go is just go and open an account and start investing for her in stocks from this stage only, so that what we do at parents, once we start working with them in grade 9, at least as a parent to my own child, I would want to start the financial planning process right now, so that things are easier at my end, right? So I think this is what brings us to the end of what we had to share. Thank you, audience, for bearing with us, and we are happy to take any questions from anybody out here.
Thank you, Rupali. Thank you, Punya. Enlightening session, I'm sure. So a lot of reactions, and I was reading the chat box as well. So first of all, thank you for sharing your expertise with us, guys. Really helpful, and I'm sure all of us have learned something new from the last 60 minutes. So your perspectives have undoubtedly broadened our understanding and equipped us with practical knowledge to better support students and families. Over to chat box. So Punya and Rupali, let me see. So just to share, Navya Mehta here was an RA herself. Navya, want to share a quick experience as an RA in 1 minute?
Yes, absolutely. I think being an RA was definitely a nice experience because you definitely like I did not have to pay for my living expenses or my food expenses or my laundry expenses. In fact, I was staying for free, only the tuition expenses, and then of course, you do get a small stipend as well. And the other thing that I did mention was that the easiest first job you can get is of at the dining court, and then of course you keep progressing. Like I was a peer mentor as well, and there are a lot of job options that you can do, but RA is definitely a great learning experience, and I actually feel that is one that got me into this counseling business as well.
Great, great. Thanks, Navya. Punya, we have a question from Mangesh. Do colleges accept tuition fees in cash, especially from farmland or property sale? What percent of families use their own funds to support education cost? A lot of questions actually. Do parents look at
I'll
income tax on
I'll try and answer,
implications?
yeah, all of them bit by
Yeah.
bit. First part, do colleges accept tuition fees in cash, especially from farmland? Mangesh, there's no question of, especially they don't accept tuition fees in cash, period. In fact, I have had parents who've approached me and said, आप पे कर सकते हैं हमारी तरफ से tuition fees और हम आपको दे देंगे. And I've been very polite where I've just given them a stern look and not answered that part of theirs. So you can't do that. It's not possible. It's a legit white transaction that you do, and yeah, it reflects into, it has implications in terms of your tax returns, etc., how you manage your cash flows and your balance sheets. Second, what percentage of families use their own funds to support education cost? Unfortunately, I don't have the data. I can go back and pull it out for you, try to pull it out for you. But if I talk about the context of the students that I work with, 90% of the students are using their own funds, and we do get 10% of students who do not, families who do not use their own funds. Some of them land up taking a loan from the bank. Some of them take an informal loan from somebody in the family and return it to them when, at a comfortable time in the future. So this is the context for my students. Once I'm done with answering all your questions, if Rupali wants to add from her context, she can. Do parents look at income tax implications on liquidating their long-term investments? I generally don't get into this because this is, I think, better answered by a chartered accountant or a wealth manager and not by a college counselor. So I do try to maintain that boundary as well, because I don't want to answer things that I'm not an expert on. So this question comes from standpoint of total expenditure and cost of attendance per year is about 2 lakh crore INR, but the education loans are only about 40,000 crores. So yes, the education loan, we do tell, when we talk about loans with our parents, we do tell them that it will only support your total cost of education, but will not, especially at the undergraduate level where you're paying much more and it's for 4 years, you will not get a loan for 2 crores. So you have to manage at least 50 to 60 to 70% of the entire cost of education yourself. The rest a loan can support. And here we also tell them in terms of what they have to show to the universities is only the first year cost of attendance, not the 4-year cost of attendance. So say if a college is costing you 50 lakhs a year, multiplied by 4, 2 CR, and the parents can only afford 50 lakhs, they're fine. They will get all the clearance because they have 50 lakhs, which is the first year cost of attendance. After that, they take from the family, they take from somebody else, they take from the bank a personal loan, an education loan for the student. All those things are possible for them. Right? I hope I've been able to answer most of your questions, Mangesh.
Yeah, I think it requires a much longer discussion, but I do want to understand in far greater depth, because mathematically I've not found a reason why not to take loan even for wealthy families. But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. So for a lot of them, everybody has a different notional or perceptual value of what money means to each person.
Correct.
And for some people, it's more about if we take a loan, how does it reflect on us? We are multimillionaires, and all this while we worked so hard, and if for our child we have to take a loan, what's the point? A typical calculative, with no offense to Gujarat, or places where people are very, very money wise, a typical Gujarati brain or a Marwadi brain or a Sindhi brain will be like, hum to loan hi lenge, even if we have tons and tons of money, we will do that because financially it makes sense. The same debate of whether you should have your own house, buy your own house, or stay on rent. We can keep going on and on about it, but these are questions which see, all the points we touched upon are, as responsible counselors, we must inform the parents that these are factors that you should look into without going way deeper into it, because that will also take away from our core focus, which is counseling the student and getting them. So what we spoke about today is more as an enabler. This is not a primary job. So that's why, as a counselor, I will educate them on all these points and then connect them to an expert like yourself who does loans. If somebody comes to me for loans, I'm happy connecting them to their own bank or asking them to connect with you, where you take them through it. And of course, I get a feedback in the end from the parent if the service was met satisfactorily or not, because if I've made a reference, that is my responsibility over that.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
I
yes,
just want to
Rupali,
add
please.
a small point to this, Mangesh. I mean, I'm going to talk about it from a parent's point of view.
Yeah.
A loan in certain ways becomes a kind of a pressure even on the student. Okay, not really. I'm not talking about the wealthy families because they will anyways manage. They are not, but families who actually are taking loans for the taking it as a loan, it is going to have a tremendous effect on the child, honestly, as a practice. Because like I said, we started as parents and we have landed up becoming counselors. We actually are not very comfortable when people are saying that we are going to take a loan, because we realize we have had a teenager. Of course, we did not apply loans or whatever, but we realize that that is an added pressure to the teenager, right? They are just young, they are 17-year-old. For masters, yes, it is, you are still an adult, you can handle situations well. God forbid the student goes as an outside, in this outside world goes, I mean, there are students who come back, right? So that is something which really stops us from encouraging parents to take loans. I'm not talking about the wealthy families. I'm talking about families who are going to actually stretch themselves.
Yeah.
So we don't want them to stretch, because one, it is an undergrad.
Yeah.
There's no point in stretching. So like I said, I'm going to talk literally like a parent and not like a counselor, but that's the reality, right? That is going to add pressure to the entire system, to the family, to the student, because the student is young.
Correct. No, makes sense.
Okay, is there a question? Thank you, Charushila, for putting the glossary. I think these points are very, very important. I'm definitely taking this back because, as I said, we have a financial calendar, but I think I'm going to add the glossary section now, because a lot of words that I think parents may understand, they may not understand. And rather than them using Google or Chat GPT at that point in time, they may just want to rely on that document alone. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, Punya, we have 1 minute and one question from Lakshmi. Insurance cost, any input on that, please?
Okay, so insurance costs depend from university to university, from college to college, also at times, from country to country as well. So there are two kinds of insurances: travel insurance, health insurance. Clarifying, travel insurance is only the flight that you take from India to go to that country. So parents land up taking the wrong insurance and they say, we've taken the travel insurance. I've seen it many times. Travel insurance is only going to take care of your baggage loss or any other thing which is during transit. The main insurance that you need is the health insurance. Now, if you're going to study in the UK, you may have 2 insurance policies, 3 insurance policies, 0 insurance policies. It does not matter. Your insurance cost is an additional mandatory cost which is attached to your student visa cost. which is the IHS, which is the International Health Surcharge that you have to pay. So which takes care of your insurance as part of the NHS. So once you reach the UK, the National Health Services in the UK, the NHS is responsible for taking care of all your medical expenses, regardless of whether you have an insurance policy or you don't. Now, when you go to any other part of the world, it's not it's not linked to your visa cost. So that's where colleges will tell you that, okay, for visa requirements for this particular country, a lot of colleges are helpful and they tell you that they have a proper deck on insurance, that this is the minimum amount that we need, and it needs to be an international accredited insurance. And they give a whole bunch of companies, sometimes country wise also. If you're in India, if these are the 20 companies that work, or wherever there are tie-ups. So for example, I'll just take an example, like there's Max Bupa, for example, or there's IFCO, Tokyo. Now, one of, like in India, most of the Indian insurances have a foreign affiliate part. So IFCO might be the Indian one and Tokyo might be the foreign one. So they might list Tokyo and you may need to check which insurance does it synergize with in India. And as long as you have an insurance policy through that, that gets transferred across. What you need to keep in mind is the cover of that insurance, because a lot of visa requirements for different countries require you to have an insurance policy which covers at least an X amount, which you will have to check as per the visa requirements for that. Okay.
Thanks a lot. That's it, Punya and Rupali. So that brings us to the conclusion of this session. Thank you once again for sharing these wonderful insights. I love the glossary as well. Some key abbreviations for everyone here. All right, so let's wrap it up. Anything? I'll just wait for one more minute. If anybody wants to add a comment or something has to say, someone has to say something. All good. Let's wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for attending the meeting, and look forward to sharing any